Hideo Kojima's Death Stranding is finally out, and if you've been able to sink much time into it, then you'll know already that the Amazon Prime delivery simulator has plenty going on under the central premise of hauling parcels around for 50 hours straight. In fact, there is a whole weird and wonderful story bubbling away like black goo at the edges of a post-apocalyptic America. And as usual for a Hideo Kojima game, there are a ton of Easter eggs and cute references hidden throughout the epic world. From nods to some of his own favourite movies and video games, to an inevitable treasure trove of callbacks to his Metal Gear Solid franchise. Death Stranding's world is so incredibly vast that it will be a while before the entirety of the game's content is uncovered. But this is what we found so far. Some of it is very obvious, and some of it is not. Either way, we're going to keep this whole thing as overtly spoiler-free as possible, with early game content and imagery that's already been featured in trailers. So watch your way in peace. I am the Mule, Ash from WhatCulture Gaming, and these are 25 Death Stranding Easter eggs, secrets, and references you must find.
But before we begin, I just want to quickly introduce today's list sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends. Now, I know you've probably already seen Raid everywhere and me talking about it in these videos, but there is a good reason for it. Raid is now ranked as one of the top 5 role-playing games in the Google Play Store, with 15 million downloads in the last 6 months alone. There's great turn-based gameplay and an amazing storyline, as well as over 400 champions for you to collect and customize. And the best part is, it's free to play. Even better, right now when you sign up, one of the things you'll get is 10 mystery shards. I opened mine and picked up a load of cool champions, including the Bloodbraid, the Temptress, and the Sentinel, which is my personal favourite FYI. What are you guys waiting for? Go to the description down below and click on our special links to get 10 free shards of your own, as well as 100,000 silver, 2 clan boss keys, and a free awesome champion, the Executioner. You'll find all your extra rewards waiting for you there, but be quick, as I've just been told it's only available for the next 30 days, but until then, let's get back to that list.
25. All the celebrity cameos. Let's start with the obvious. Over the last few years, Kojima has been meeting up with various filmmaker and celebrity pals and scanning them in for small cameo roles to deliver cargo to in Death Stranding. Among the more recognisable faces are Conan O'Brien, an otter-loving cosplayer, Cornetto Trilogy director Edgar Wright, a man named Thomas Sutherland, Kong Skull Island director Jordan Vogt-Roberts, a character simply named the film director, Max Payne creator Sam Lake, the veteran porter, and Kojima's old pal Jeff Keighley, as a hilariously monikered Ludens fan. There's also Daichi Miura, Junji Ito, Herman Hulst, Hirokazu Hamamura, Errolson Hugh, Tommy Wirkola, and Manabu Makime to keep your eyes peeled for. If you're extra perceptive and spend a little time chilling in your private room, you might even spot Hideo Kojima himself. 24. BB's heart-shaped bubbles. This one is admittedly a lot easier to spot if you're playing the game in 4K on a PS4 Pro, as depending on who your baby in a bottle BB is looking at, the oxygen bubbles within BB's container will tell their own cute story. If BB's looking at a favourable character in a cutscene, you might see some heart-shaped bubbles rising to the surface, suggesting not only BB's ever-important contentment, but also a sure affection for whoever is being ogled. Aww. 23. Silent Hills. When you visit Capital Knot City in the game's very first episode, just outside of the outpost you'll find a street that, with its more conventional city-like buildings, looks rather out of place amid the post-apocalyptic ruins and sterile safe houses. That's because the street is pulled near wholesale out of Silent Hills, a previous project Kojima was working on with Norman Reedus, which was unexpectedly cancelled by Konami and ultimately led to the creation of Death Stranding. 22. Kobo Abe. For the opening, the quote from Japanese writer Kobo Abe's poem Nawa is used, referring to the concepts of the rope and stick, which ultimately are central to both Death Stranding's themes and gameplay. Kojima has been a lifelong fan of Abe's work, and the writer has had a profound impact on most of his career in the video game industry. The Metal Gear Solid games are themselves influenced by Abe's poem The Boxman, which was about a man who wore a large cardboard box over his head. Sound familiar? And wait, sorry, did someone mention Metal Gear Solid? Lock yourself in for the next 8 entries. 21. What took you so long? After your very first delivery, you're greeted by Mama, who bluntly asks, "What took you so long?" This is of course a hilariously unsubtle reference to a Hideo Kojima meme that was born from Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes. You see, Kojima himself appears in Ground Zeroes as an NPC during a side ops mission, and upon rescuing him, he'll ask Snake, "What took you so long?" Death Stranding also features numerous references to people being kept waiting. Surely a nod to Snake's infamous "kept you waiting, huh?" quip at the start of Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. Plus, it's a reference to just how damn long we were kept in the dark on this title. Man knows how to play his audience. 20. Disc-based media. You'll end up delivering all sorts of cargo throughout your travels during the game, including disc-based media, which is simply the latest in a long line of Kojima's in-game references to video game discs. Bit on the nose that, but hey. The original Metal Gear Solid, of course, asked the player to find Meryl's codec code on the back of the CD case, while Metal Gear Solid 4 hilariously had Otacon urge Snake to change the game disc halfway through, only to remember that, as the game was on PS3, no changeover was required. Whilst Death Stranding's tip of the hat towards optical media is more subtle, it is impossible to see disc-based media in a Kojima game and not consider his knack for referencing physical video game discs. In an increasingly digital world, that is more telling than ever. 19. Sniper Wolf. Early on in the game, one character casually mentions a clingy woman in a cave, which is clearly a reference to Metal Gear Solid's iconic boss, Sniper Wolf. Her hideout was famously hidden within a cave, which Snake had to sneak through by wearing a handkerchief in order to avoid being attacked by her fiercely loyal wolves. 18. The Codec. Somewhat amusingly, presumably due to the state of the game's post-apocalyptic world, the codec is actually far more rudimentary as a communications device than it was in most of the Metal Gear Solid games, featuring nothing more than a basic, fractured image of the caller. But rather than explain the presence of the codec in this world, Kojima rightly assumes fans will just get on board with it. They all know the score by now. 17. Solid Snake. If you're unsuccessful in your attempts to stealthily sneak past the mules, the demented rogue porters who want to steal your cargo, you might get a codec call from Die Hardman, who will memorably quip, "If you were a spy on a mission, you would have failed," before noting that this isn't the case, so you're fine. Yes, this is more Metal Gear Solid. Even though the Metal Gear Solid games featured only a small number of moments where being spotted resulted in a game over, outside of European extreme difficulty anyway, stealth had a far greater emphasis than it does in Death Stranding's starker, more isolated world. 16. Dwarf geckos. Bridges is experimenting with autonomous delivery bots, yet another parallel to contemporary society, and when one of them appears before you, Metal Gear Solid fans will likely note just how much resemblance they bear to the annoying dwarf geckos, aka scarabs from Metal Gear Solid 4. Thankfully, they're a lot less aggressive in this instance though, and 1000% more helpful. 15. Manhattan. Later in the game, there's some significance to the location of Manhattan. And of course there is, as it's an extremely important and familiar location in Metal Gear Solid lore. For starters, in the first Metal Gear Solid, Otacon confesses that his grandfather was part of the Manhattan Project, the American wartime research project which led to the creation of the world's first nuclear weapons. Metal Gear Solid 2: Sons of Liberty, meanwhile, is set entirely on the Manhattan shoreline, culminating of course in the final boss battle between Raiden and Solidus Snake atop Manhattan's Federal Hall. 14. Game Over. This one's an easy spot delivered in your first interaction with DEADMAN, who talks about how void-outs will turn the surrounding area into a crater and cause a game over, accompanied by the appearance of a game over screen in the background. The text in the background bears a noted similarity to the iconic game over screen from the earlier Metal Gear Solid games, even using a near-identical font for good measure. And of course, the quote itself is from Aliens when Bill Paxton's Hudson is freaking out. A twofer right there. 13. All the DEADMAN pop culture references. And we are free of the Metal Gear Solid curse. As well as the game over quip, there are a hell of a lot of pop culture references hidden throughout Death Stranding, because of course there are, and many of them end up coming from the mouth of DEADMAN, who of course bears the likeness of Kojima's filmmaker pal Guillermo del Toro. DEADMAN also refers to himself as your friendly neighborhood DEADMAN at one early point, an obvious reference to Spider-Man. DEADMAN bears a Frankenstein-like scar in his head, which is a likely reference to the fact that Del Toro has been trying to get a Frankenstein movie out for years. And better still, in one of DEADMAN's interviews, he hilariously name-drops Del Toro's own movie, The Shape of Water, for which the director won Best Picture and Best Director Oscars. 12. Sam's suit number is a Bible reference. The suit worn by Sam in the game's opening sequence bears the number sequence 0914-137, which might seem totally random and innocuous, unless you've been keeping up on your Bible reading recently. Some fans believe it to be a reference to Psalm 137, verse 9 from the Bible, which reads, "Happy is the one who seizes your infants and dashes them against the rocks." And as for the number 14 on Sam's suit, that's because the passage has 14 words, of course. Given that infants being seized and rocky, beach-like locations are a huge part of Death Stranding's plot and aesthetic, it certainly fits. And as we all know, almost nothing Kojima puts in his games is a mere coincidence. 11. Facebook. One of the game's best gameplay systems is its fantastic asynchronous multiplayer, where other players' structures will persist in your own game world, and similarly, your own creations can be used by other players to help traverse the environment. Kojima has also included a social media-esque like system, where players are encouraged to dole out likes to helpful players, and you'll also receive likes from NPCs simply for completing orders. This is obviously unsubtly satirical of current social media trends, but the actual like bar itself has a blue and white motif which is unmistakably inspired by the Facebook colour scheme, yet just different enough to avoid being sued. 10. Norman Reedus doesn't like you staring at his crotch. There's a ton of hilarity which players can uncover whilst hanging out in Sam's private room. And it took mere moments for some players to discover that if you stare at Sam's crotch for too long, he will flip the bird. And if you still persist in denying him his dignity, he'll end up punching the camera as punishment. The game's urination mechanic also invites curious players to try and sneak a peek at Sam's modesty whilst he's emptying his bladder. But attempting to do so will cause BB to start wailing hysterically whilst the camera refuses to swing around to Sam's front. If there's any way to stop people doing a thing, having a baby scream through the PS4 controller is probably it. 9. HIGGS breaks the fourth wall. One of your first encounters with the villainous HIGGS sees him tearing down the fourth wall in a clear attempt to mock the game's wave of haters. He literally asks Sam, "Aren't you tired of the grind?" Yes, I am, HIGGS. Yes, I am. Given that the majority of Death Stranding's gameplay is focused on the rigours of traversal rather than combat set pieces, it is understandable that some have called the game boring, even if it's something Kojima was clearly fully anticipating. 8. Memory chips. Death Stranding's most prominent collectible are the memory chips scattered around the open world, of which there are 56 to find. These little chips are all neat little Easter eggs in and of themselves, either containing scale models of Ludens figures or serving as time capsule reminders of pop culture wiped out by the Death Stranding. Some of these include the soundtrack for last year's God of War reboot and posters for classic movies such as Christine, Big Fish, Fright Night, Seven Samurai, The Bridge on the River Kwai, and Dr. Strangelove, and many, many more. 7. Product placement. One of the weirdest things in the entire game is the bafflingly blatant product placements present in Sam's room. First off, Monster energy drinks are on the table in the room, and every time you consume an energy drink to increase stamina whilst out in the world, you'll be reminded that you just drank some Monster. Meanwhile, if you go to the toilet in the private room, the cubicle door has a poster for the AMC show Ride with Norman Reedus slapped all over it. Oh, and when you visit Hartman's luxurious apartment later in the game, his neon smart lighting is powered by the very real company LNNR. Hideo Kojima, more like Shilio Shiljima, am I right? Yeah, got him there. 6. Horizon Zero Dawn. Given that Death Stranding uses the incredibly powerful Decima engine created by Guerrilla Games, as used on their AAA hit Horizon Zero Dawn, it is little surprise that this game includes a few brilliant shoutouts to it. For starters, certain fixtures you create, such as generators, will often produce holograms of Horizon's gigantic tallnecks. Whilst it's possible to find protagonist Aloy hanging out with the craftsman at his base, along with one of the game's iconic machine creatures. That's pretty sweet payback considering that Guerrilla literally just gave Kojima Productions the Decima source code, no questions asked, to help Kojima achieve his vision as smoothly as possible. 5. Days Gone. And that is not the only game that's gotten involved with Death Stranding. Though many developers took to Twitter to congratulate Hideo Kojima and his team for shipping Death Stranding, SIE Bend Studio went one step further by actually including a Death Stranding Easter egg in their game Days Gone. The DLC update allows players to replace their motorcycle's usual gas tank with the BB container, BB and all, as well as slap some Death Stranding branded decals on the bike. Well, that's just lovely, isn't it? 4. Make America Great Again and Donald Trump. It's no secret that Death Stranding is very much concerned with the state of the world today, and particularly the US, with the game's world depicting an America torn apart by a failure of communication, terrorism, and tyranny in various forms. The game's real-world illusions are best embodied, however, by the character of Die Hardman, who makes numerous references over the course of the game to making America whole again. This is obviously just one word removed from Donald Trump's Make America Great Again slogan, and the fact that the game also features the first ever female American president when Hillary Clinton recently came so close is surely no coincidence. 3. The game wishes you happy birthday. At the very start of the game, players are asked to input their date of birth, which determines how strong their Doom's abilities are, with those born under constellations Cancer, Pisces, Cestus, Delphinus, and GEKKOS proving the most fortuitous. But there's another function to the birthday input. If you're lucky enough to be playing the game on your actual birthday, you'll be greeted with some special treats throughout the day. First and foremost, your private room will have a gorgeous red velvet birthday cake on the table next to the Monster Energy drinks. And if you call out to other players whilst out in the world, Sam himself will wish you a happy birthday. But it gets even better. Periodically throughout the game, you'll see flashes of Mads Mikkelsen's mysterious character. And if it's your birthday, he'll not only wink at you and wish you a happy birthday, but he'll present you with a bouquet of flowers too. 2. 20 minutes of love. Later in the game, you'll witness Hartman's library. Though most of the books and movies on the shelf are fictional, providing cheeky references to the game's events themselves, one is briefly held up to reveal the 1914 movie 20 Minutes of Love, a silent short film said to be star Charlie Chaplin's directorial debut. Though the movie's plot has no real links to Death Stranding's own narrative, it's clearly a fun pick for Hartman given that his heart stops every 21 minutes as revealed in his character trailer, requiring him to be artificially revived. There's nothing like dying mid-movie to really ruin the mood, I guess. 1. The release date has been hidden in the logo for 3 years. And finally, we have an Easter egg that has been hiding in plain sight ever since the game's first trailer dropped at E3 2016. The title reveal includes 8 strands attached to 11 letters. And lo and behold, the game ended up releasing on the 11th month, November, and the 8th day. As tough as this might be to believe, given the ever-shifting nature of games development and how challenging it would be to set a release date in stone more than 3 years ahead of time, if there's anyone who could do it, it is surely Kojima. Fingers crossed we might get some confirmation from the man himself at some point. And honestly, even if it's not true, he may as well take credit for it at this point. And that's our list. What other Easter eggs and fun references have you spotted during your time in Death Stranding? Let us know in the comments section below. I've been Ash and this has been WhatCulture Gaming. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe and come back again soon for some more lovely gaming content. Thanks for watching.